Friends, I want you to do something for me right now. Go to your kitchen, turn on the tap. Let that water run over your finger. Now imagine, one morning, you do exactly that, and nothing comes out. Not a drip, not a trickle, nothing. Just air, just a hollow, mocking hiss from an empty pipe. Imagine you can't make breakfast. You can't flush the toilet. You can't give your little brother a glass of water. You can't even wash the sleep from your eyes. And then imagine that this isn't a bad dream. This isn't a sci-fi movie. This is happening. Right now, in a real American city, with real people, real families, real children. Corpus Christi, Texas. Population, 500,000 people. Located on the warm, shimmering Gulf Coast, a city built on water, surrounded by water, and now desperately running out of it. And here's the twist that's going to keep you watching this entire video. The drought? That's only part of the story. The real villain wears a suit and drives a very expensive car. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's understand what we're dealing with. Corpus Christi sits right on the Gulf Coast of Texas. Imagine a city where the bay sparkles like broken glass in the afternoon sun, where shrimpers have hauled nets since before your grandparents were born, where families build their entire lives around the water. It's a beautiful place, truly. The kind of place where kids grow up catching fish off bridges and eating snow cones on humid summer evenings. But beauty, friends, can be deceiving, because right now more than 60% of Texas is in a severe drought or worse. 60%. That's more than half of an enormous state, baked, cracked, and gasping. But here's what makes Corpus Christi different. Here's what keeps local engineer John Michael up at night, literally waking him from sleep, staring at the ceiling, thinking about pipes and pumps and water levels. The drought isn't the only reason they're running out. It's not even the main one. The water is disappearing because someone is drinking it first. Someone with very deep pockets. Okay, friends, I need you to put on your thinking caps for just a moment, because these numbers are wild. More than 60% of Corpus Christi's entire water supply is consumed not by the city's families, not by its schools, not by its hospitals, by big industry, oil companies, gas companies, petrochemical plants. We're talking about tens of millions of gallons every single day, billions of gallons a year. Let that math sink in. 6 corporations, just 6, guzzled nearly 57 billion gallons of water over just 3 years. 57 billion. That's more than 3 times what every single resident of the entire city used combined. 3 times. Think about that. While you were taking 5-minute showers because of the drought restrictions, while restaurants were shutting off decorative fountains, while your neighbor got a $500 fine for watering her garden, the refineries were using more water in 2025, during the worst drought in memory, than they did in 2022 when water was plentiful. More. During a drought, not less. More. And do you want to know how much they were paying for this water? 31 cents per 1,000 gallons. And, get this, they were completely exempt from the drought surcharge. While you got a fine for watering your roses, they paid pennies and paid nothing extra and answered to nobody. But let's stop looking at this as just numbers on a screen. Let's talk about the people, because every statistic has a face behind it. Meet Mana Lytle. She has lived in Corpus Christi her entire life. She knows its streets the way you know the hallways of your school, every corner, every memory. She grew up in a neighborhood called Hillcrest, a historically Black community built right on the shores of Port Corpus Christi. Generations of families, churches, barbecues on Saturday afternoons, kids chasing each other between houses, and then, slowly, the industry moved in. Houses were bought out, streets vanished, entire communities erased, replaced by cooling towers and chemical plants and fences with no trespassing signs. Mana. All these spaces, this is where we had property. We had property everywhere. And now, it's just a few of us. Can you hear the grief in those words? This wasn't just a neighborhood. This was a world, and it's gone. And Mana doesn't mince her words about what she believes is happening. Mana, this way they can make us go away and disappear and say it was because of a need of water. But how can you say that when you constantly give industry the first deal on water? Then there's Isabella Riza, a community organizer, a fighter, a woman who looked at this situation and decided she was not going to sit quietly. Isabel told our journalist something that stopped him cold. Isabel, you have the highest volume water users. For 31 cents per 1,000 gallons, they can use all the water they want. They are exempt from the drought surcharge. And she said it so calmly, like she had repeated it 1,000 times to people who kept looking away. And then there's the woman who boils her eggs every morning and saves the cooling water in a pot on the stove, not to throw it away, to go outside and water her few surviving plants with it. Resident, I'm just like, this is so ridiculous. Okay, maybe water restrictions make sense during a drought, but then she trails off. Because what do you even say? You save your egg water while the refinery across town uses 1 million gallons before noon. So how did we get here? Because this crisis didn't happen overnight. There's a paper trail, there are decisions, there are votes, there are names. Let's rewind to a council chamber in Corpus Christi. Picture the fluorescent lights, the rows of seats, the microphones, the 9 council members seated at the dais. Before them, a proposal. ExxonMobil. Yes, that ExxonMobil, one of the most profitable corporations in human history, wants to build a $10 billion plant in Corpus Christi, a plant to make plastics and process methane gas, in partnership with Saudi Aramco, the Saudi state oil company. And they want water, 25 million gallons per day. Former city councilman Jim Klein remembers that moment. He was there. He stood at that microphone during public comments and he said, "Don't do this." Jim Klein, if you agree to this contract, you're going to sell off our cushion against a drought. He wasn't alone. Environmentalists, community members, concerned citizens, they all came, they all spoke, they all pleaded. The council voted 9-2-0 in favor. Every single vote for the deal, for ExxonMobil, for the 25 million gallons a day. And then Steel Dynamics, a massive steel company, came along. Same story, more water, same result. They sold water they didn't have. They made promises they couldn't keep, and the clock started ticking. Jim Klein. There's been a long-standing attitude here in Corpus Christi that bringing new businesses in is an unqualified good for the city. Unqualified good, meaning no questions, no limits, no, but what happens when it doesn't rain? Just come on in, take what you need. We'll figure out the rest later. And now it's later, and there's nothing left to figure. Mana Lytle took our journalist on a drive, down what locals call Industry Row, 20 miles of it, 20 miles of refineries, cooling towers, chemical plants, and pipelines. She pointed to those cooling towers, massive concrete structures breathing out great clouds of steam into the Texas sky. Mana, see everything coming out? That's the dragon. That's the dragon's smoke. The dragon. I love that image. Because that's exactly what it is, isn't it? This enormous, ancient, hungry thing, breathing out steam, drinking the city's water, indifferent to everything around it. Those cooling towers are where the water goes. It evaporates. It rises. It becomes sky. It doesn't come back to the reservoir. It doesn't come back to your tap. It just disappears. And here's what makes it worse. The reservoirs that the city depends on, Lake Corpus Christi and Choke Canyon Reservoir, are drying up fast. One resident put it simply, "Resident, our main water sources, they are more than 90% empty," which is insane. 90% empty. Picture a glass of water. Now pour out 9/10 of it. What's left in the bottom? That's what Corpus Christi is working with. And in the middle of all this, while the reservoirs shrink, while residents scramble, while engineers drill emergency wells along the Nueces River, the industrial water use actually went up. Not down up. During stage 3 drought restrictions, the worst restrictions the city can impose on residents. The corporations increased their consumption because they could, because the law let them, because nobody stopped them. Every story has its debate, its two sides facing off across an invisible line. And in Corpus Christi, that line runs right through City Hall. On one side, former councilman Jim Klein, a man who has watched this crisis unfold and refuses to look away from who caused it. On the other, Roland Barrera, a current city councilman, a man who supported the ExxonMobil deal, the Steel Dynamics expansion, and the desalination proposals. Our journalist sat down with Barrera and asked him directly, should industry take what it needs? Barrera, we need to recognize our identity. In order for us to retain that industry, we need to be competitive when it comes to water. Water is a commodity. That word. Think about that word. A commodity is something you buy and sell on a market, like corn, like steel, like oil. But Klein sees it completely differently. Jim Klein, many times they refer to water as a commodity. We can't think about it that way. It's a resource, and increasingly, a scarce resource. A scarce resource, not a product, not a business opportunity, a resource, something that living things need to survive. And here's the question that cuts to the heart of everything. Can a city be both? Can it be an industrial powerhouse and a livable community? Or does choosing one mean sacrificing the other? Barrera says yes, they can coexist. He believes industry will do the right thing when push comes to shove. Barrera, I'm confident that if industry recognizes that we need to curtail, they'll ensure that citizens of Corpus Christi come first. Our journalist asked the follow-up that needed to be asked. Journalist, is that legally binding? And Barrera shook his head. Barrera, no. It's just that I know those folks. I know they're scrambling right now to find other resources. No. Legal, enforcement, just trust, just handshakes, just knowing those folks. Trusting billion-dollar corporations to voluntarily use less of a resource they need to operate. Does that strike you as a solid plan? Bob Paulison represents the big oil, gas, and petrochemical companies. He's the voice of Industry Row, the man paid to make sure the company's interests are heard at every table. Our journalist met him and asked him the most important question. Journalist, are your members willing to shut down operations if there is a severe emergency that's declared? Bob Paulison, well, they never want to shut down operations, and they're going to extreme measures right now to figure out how they continue to operate. Even if this condition persists, even if the water runs out, the priority, the absolute unwavering priority, is to keep operating. These plants represent tens of billions of dollars of investment, tens and tens of billions. And Paulison made it clear, those plants are not stopping. But then our journalist said something that shifted the mood in that room. Journalist, the city manager shared that their latest reports predict this region could be out of water. If certain things don't happen, it could be 2 months, Bob Paulison. It's important to not overreact to every bit of information that appears in the media. Journalist, this wasn't the media. This was government officials sharing scientific reports. And then came the exchange that will stay with you. The one that sounds like something from a movie villain, except it's real. Journalist, you say we have time? Bob Paulison, well, I didn't say we had a lot of time, but we're not out of time yet. Journalist, we're not out of time until we're out of time. Isn't that the attitude that's gotten us here? No response to that. Just silence. The most honest thing said in that whole meeting. Okay, so if the reservoirs are empty and the corporations won't stop, what do? What's the plan? City officials and industry both pointed to the same answer. Build a desalination plant. Take the water from the bay, remove the salt, pipe it in. On paper, it sounds elegant. Corpus Christi is surrounded by ocean. Why not use it? But nothing in this story is simple. First, the cost. The Inner Harbor desalination plant started out as a couple $100 million. Then the estimates came back, $750 million. Then $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion for a city whose population is actually declining, whose schools are underfunded, whose infrastructure is crumbling. Then there's the environmental issue. When you desalinate water, you're left with a highly concentrated saltwater byproduct called brine, and the plan was to dump it right back into the bay. Resident: we're concerned about increasing the salinity of the bay, killing all the plant and animal life there. The bay that the city was built around. The bay that shrimpers have worked for generations. The bay that is Corpus Christi's identity, potentially poisoned by the very solution meant to save the city. Community groups rallied. Residents showed up to meeting after meeting. Isabel Ariza and her group, for the greater good, organized, protested, and argued. And in September 2025, the city council voted it down. The Inner Harbor desalination plant was rejected, a small victory for the residents. But the water emergency? Still very much unresolved. The state provided some funding, but as Isabel pointed out, it came as a loan, not a grant. Isabel, he didn't give it to us. It's in the form of a loan. So we're looking at like $100 million in interest and maintenance operations. In a city whose population has been declining, even the lifeline comes with strings. John Michael is a civil engineer. He has spent his career thinking about water, calculating supply, planning for drought, mapping aquifers under the Texas ground. He says this is his fourth drought, but this one is different. This one keeps him awake. John Michael: I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about this problem, almost every night. Right now, Michael is leading emergency drilling operations along the Nueces River, working with landowners to lease their private wells, trying to inject more volume into the city's water supply before the reservoirs hit zero. It's urgent, improvised work, the kind of thing you do when the plan you should have had for 20 years never happened. And he's not shy about saying it. John Michael: we really should have been focused on groundwater to diversify our system over the last 20 years. I've been preaching that. It went unheard. We just didn't diversify. 20 years, 2 entire decades of warnings from engineers, from scientists, from people who spend their lives understanding water, all ignored because it was easier, because groundwater diversification doesn't have a ribbon-cutting ceremony. It doesn't generate headlines. It doesn't attract billion-dollar corporations. And desalination? Michael shakes his head. John Michael: it's going to be your most expensive water. That's why there's only 2 desalination plants in the United States, one in Carlsbad and one in Tampa. Desal should never have been the city's first step. Only 2 desalination plants in the entire country. And Corpus Christi was betting everything on building a third, while the cheaper, more sustainable solution, groundwater, sat untapped underground. Sometimes the answers we need most are right beneath our feet. We just never bother to dig. All right, friends, we've talked about drought, we've talked about reservoirs, we've talked about desalination and groundwater. Now let's talk about something that ties all of it together. Let's talk about money and politics. Isabel Ariza did some digging. She found something called the Coastal Bend Coalition, a political action committee, a PAC, formed in the 2023 to 2024 election cycle. Its stated mission? Responsible government for the Coastal Bend. Sounds reasonable, right? Responsible government. Who's against that? But look at who funded it. Look at who it endorsed. Look at where the $250,000 went. Isabel, what they did is they put together a list of candidates that they endorsed, and they flooded the different positions on the city council. $250,000 from an industry-linked PAC, flowing directly into city council races, shaping who sits in those chairs, who votes on those water contracts, who approves or rejects those industrial deals. And now you understand why the city council voted 9-0 for ExxonMobil. You understand why the drought exemption exists. You understand why residents get fines while corporations get discounts. Because the people making those decisions didn't get elected on their own. They got elected with help. And help in this world comes with expectations. This is the part that connects Corpus Christi to every city, every community, every place where the powerful and the powerless share the same zip code but live in completely different worlds. When money shapes who gets elected, the elected shape who gets the water. But here's the thing about people. Here's what history teaches us over and over again. When things get bad enough, when the injustice becomes undeniable, people organize. Isabella Araiza did exactly that. She founded a group called For the Greater Good. And she started fighting. They attended every city council meeting. They filed public records requests. They analyzed the city's own water dashboard data. They tracked the PAC money. They reached out to media. They built a coalition of concerned neighbors who refused to accept that this was just how things had to be, and they won a real victory: the rejection of the Inner Harbor Desalination Plant, a project that could have burdened residents with debt for generations. But Isabel knows one victory isn't enough. So now they're aiming higher. They're pushing for a Fair Water Amendment, a ballot initiative for the November 2026 election. The goal? End the drought exemption for industrial users. Force the biggest water consumers to play by the same rules as everyone else. Make them pay the surcharge. Make them face the same restrictions. Isabel, I want to say that we're going to win. We just haven't won yet. Just haven't won yet. Not we're losing. Not it's hopeless. Just not yet. There's something in those three words that is quietly one of the most powerful things you can say. It assumes victory. It demands patience. It refuses defeat. And then she said something that stopped me cold. Isabel, this is such a beautiful place, and we don't even value it. Imagine if we actually invested in it the way we invest in industry. What could this place be? Let's talk about what comes next, because this story doesn't have a neat ending. It's still unfolding, and what happens next depends on a single decision. City Manager Peter Zanoni has one tool left in his toolkit, one lever he can pull. He can declare a Level 1 water emergency. What does that mean? It means that for the first time, legally, officially, with the force of government behind it, the big industrial water users would have to curtail, would have to use less, would have to stop acting like the rules don't apply to them. But Zanoni has been reluctant to pull that lever. And he said why. Peter Zanoni, what we're trying to balance is protecting our local economy. That's why we're not in any rush to call an emergency. The economy, always the economy. But friends, what economy functions without water? What restaurants stay open? What schools operate? What families remain in a city where you can't turn on your tap? The economy is the people, and the people need water. Meanwhile, predictions from government scientific reports were showing something alarming. Under certain conditions, Corpus Christi could face absolute water emergency within 2 months of those reports being issued. 2 months, not 2 years, not 2 decades, 2 months. And the industry's response was still, we're not shutting down. We haven't run out of time yet. We're not out of time until we're out of time. That sentence, that one sentence should haunt you. We're not out of time until we're out of time. It's not strategy. It's not planning. It's gambling with 500,000 people's lives. Now I need to zoom out, because what's happening in Corpus Christi isn't unique to Corpus Christi. In 2018, Cape Town, South Africa came within days of becoming the first major city in the modern world to literally turn off its municipal water supply. They called it Day Zero. People stood in lines for hours, rationed to 25 liters per person per day. 25 liters. That's about 6.5 gallons. In 2019, Chennai, India, a city of 10 million people, ran completely dry. The 4 reservoirs that supplied the city hit zero. Zero. Hotels shut down. Offices closed. Fights broke out over water tankers in the streets. Mexico City is currently sinking into the dried-out lake bed it was built on. The aquifers beneath it, drained for centuries, are collapsing. The city is literally going down, and these are not poor cities without resources. Cape Town is a major global tourist destination. Chennai is a technology hub. Mexico City is one of the largest cities on Earth. Water doesn't care about your GDP. Water doesn't care about your credit rating. Water doesn't care about your status. Water just runs out. The United Nations estimates that by 2030, just 4 years from now, global demand for fresh water will exceed supply by 40%. 40%. That gap doesn't close itself. And the story of Corpus Christi is a preview, a warning shot, a city living the future that many others are headed toward if decisions don't change. All right, let's take a step back and understand the science. Because the drought is real, it's not invented. And it's important to understand what's driving it. Texas sits in a complicated climate zone. It's been dry before, the 1950s drought, the 2011 drought. But climate scientists say the droughts are getting longer, hotter, and more severe. Here's how a reservoir drought works. You have a lake, Lake Corpus Christi, for example. It fills from rainfall and river inflow. It drains from evaporation, agricultural use, industrial use, and residential use. When rainfall decreases, in which La Niña weather patterns can cause for years at a stretch, the inflow slows, but the outflow doesn't slow to match it. The demands stay the same, or increase. So the lake shrinks, month by month, year by year, until one day someone looks at the numbers and realizes 90% gone. And here's the cruel irony of hot droughts. The hotter it gets, the more water evaporates from the reservoir surface. You're losing water just by having it sit there in the Texas sun. You're also losing water from those cooling towers, the dragon smoke, all that steam rising from the refineries. That was water. That was the reservoir. Rising into the sky, never to return. John Michael understands this better than anyone, which is why he's drilling. Groundwater doesn't evaporate. It doesn't sit in an open lake under a relentless sun. It waits underground in aquifers, natural storage systems that have taken thousands of years to fill. They're not infinite, but used wisely, they're far more stable than a surface reservoir during a severe drought. This is why diversification matters, why you never put all your water in one basket. Okay, friends, let's do something we don't always do in these stories. Let's talk solutions, real ones, because despair without direction is just sadness. And this story deserves more than sadness. What should Corpus Christi have done? What should it still do? First, diversification. John Michael has been saying it for 20 years. You cannot rely on a single source. Not in Texas, not anywhere in an era of increasingly unpredictable climate. Groundwater wells, river water rights, recycled water systems, you need all of them working together. Second, water pricing reform. If industrial users pay 31 cents per 1,000 gallons with zero drought surcharge, that's not water management. That's a giveaway. Make the price reflect the scarcity. Third, contractual limits. Before signing any future water contract with a major industrial user, the city should include hard caps, legally binding reductions during drought conditions, not handshakes, not "I know those folks," contracts with teeth. Fourth, community power. The residents of Corpus Christi are already doing this, pushing for a Fair Water Amendment in 2026. Democratic participation in water governance isn't just noble, it's necessary. And fifth, honesty from city officials, from industry, from state lawmakers. Stop the narrative whiplash. Stop saying, we're running out of water one week and everything is fine the next. People deserve truth, even when the truth is hard. Resident, your narratives are constantly changing. We're running out of water. No, we're not running out of water. Our narrative has never changed. The people knew. The people always know. Sometimes they just need their leaders to admit it. Before we get to the end of this story, I want to bring you back to the people, because policies and numbers and lawsuits are abstractions. These people are not. Mona Lydell, who drove a journalist down Industry Row and pointed at cooling towers and called them the dragon smoke, who has watched her community be bought out and erased and replaced with fences. Mona, it doesn't matter to them. All we are is just a location. We're a pot of gold that they want. A pot of gold. Think about what it means to live in a place that sees you as a resource, not a person, not a family, not a community, a location, a resource, a pot of gold, and the woman who saves her egg water. Her name wasn't given, but she exists. She's real, and she is doing everything right and being made to feel like she's doing something wrong, while the refineries drink the city's future. And then there are the residents at City Hall, packed into that council chamber, faces tight with frustration, voices rising, who said simply, "Residents, we are citizens of Corpus Christi, Texas. We are here to survive, to live, to be happy. We are still here, and we're going to fight. Why should we have to give up what we have? Why should they? Why should anyone?" And there's John Michael, in the middle of the night, staring at the ceiling, running calculations he's been running for 20 years through a mind that won't quiet down until the problem is solved. He's still drilling, still fighting, still believing there's a technical solution hiding somewhere in the earth beneath Texas. I hope he finds it. I really do. As of the time this script was written, Corpus Christi has not declared a level 1 water emergency. The drilling along the Nueces River continues. The Fair Water Amendment is being organized, and the corporations along Industry Row are still operating at full capacity. The reservoirs are still at historically low levels. The drought hasn't broken. The emergency groundwater wells are buying time, but they're not a permanent fix. The city is walking a tightrope over a very deep drop, and the rope is getting thinner every day. City officials continue planning for the Level 1 emergency declaration. The state has approved additional groundwater discharge. More permanent solutions remain, as of now, elusive. But here's what I want you to hold on to, and this is important. The people of Corpus Christi have not given up. They're organizing, they're voting, they're showing up to council meetings, they're filing records requests, they're saving their egg water and drafting ballot amendments and drilling emergency wells at 3 in the morning. They are doing everything they can with the power they have, and that matters. That matters enormously. All right, let's step all the way back now. Let's look at the view from 30,000 feet, because there's a lesson in this story that goes beyond Corpus Christi, that goes beyond Texas, that goes beyond any one city, any one drought, any one set of bad decisions. For most of human history, we understood something intuitively. Water is life, not a commodity, not a product. Life. Ancient civilizations rose and fell on the availability of fresh water. The Mesopotamians built their cities between 2 rivers. The Egyptians worshipped the Nile. The Indus Valley civilization tracked rainfall with sophisticated measurement systems. They understood that without water, nothing else matters. Not gold, not land, not armies, not industry. And somewhere in the past century, somewhere in the age of industrialization and growth and quarterly earnings reports, we started to forget that. We started treating water like oil, like a commodity to be bought, sold, contracted, and consumed at whatever rate the market would bear. And now we are living with the consequences of that forgetting. Corpus Christi is not a failure of nature. Yes, the drought is real. Yes, the climate is changing. But a city does not get to 90% empty reservoirs by accident. It gets there through decision after decision after decision, through a 9-0 vote, through a 31-cent water rate, through a drought exemption for corporations, through 20 years of groundwater warnings ignored. It gets there through choices, and choices can be changed. Jim Klein said it better than I can. Jim Klein, water is a resource, and an increasingly scarce resource, not a commodity, a resource. Something you steward, something you protect, something you pass on to the next generation, not diminished, but intact. That's the lesson. That's the whole lesson. You're watching this. Maybe you're in high school. Maybe you're the kind of person who reads ahead in textbooks, not because you have to, but because something in you wants to understand how the world actually works. Good, hold on to that. Because the world needs people who want to understand. And here's what I want you to take away from the story of Corpus Christi. Water is not guaranteed. The tap in your kitchen, that simple, unremarkable thing you've used every day of your life, is the product of infrastructure, planning, policy, and collective investment. It doesn't just happen. People built it, people maintain it, people fight for it. The people fighting for it in Corpus Christi right now are not engineers or politicians or billionaires. They're Mana, they're Isabel, they're the woman who saves her egg water. They're John Michael lying awake at 3 in the morning. Regular people, doing extraordinary things because someone has to. And you, even from where you are, here's what you can do. Learn about where your water comes from. Seriously, how do you know? Is it a reservoir, a river, groundwater? Do you know who manages it? What the drought levels are this year? Pay attention to local elections, Water policy is local policy. City councils make decisions about water contracts. Know who you're voting for and what they stand for. Use water thoughtfully, not because you're going to personally save Corpus Christi, but because the habit of treating water as precious is a habit worth having. In a world of changing climate, it's a habit that might matter more and more. And talk about it. Share this story, because the most powerful thing that happens when a story like this spreads is that people stop pretending everything is fine. The residents of Corpus Christi don't need your pity. They need your attention. They're doing the hard work. The least we can do is bear witness, Isabel. This is such a beautiful place. Imagine if we actually invested in it the way we invest in industry. What could this place be? What could it be? What could any of our communities be if we chose them the way we choose profit? I don't know the answer to that, but I think it's worth spending a lifetime trying to find out. Go turn on your tap again. Let it run. Now think about Corpus Christi. Think about Mana and Isabel and John Michael. Think about a city where doing that might not be possible much longer. And then think about what kind of world you want to live in and what role you're willing to play in building it. Because water wars are here, they've been here, and how they end, that part isn't written yet. That part is up to us.